Hello. So I'm going to be talking about chapter 9 now. This is a very debatable chapter, I think. Chapter 9, environmental issues. I will admit, we have a lot of environmental things that we need to get straightened out, but some of this stuff I think is taking way too much precedence over some other issues that I think are more, I don't know what you want to call it, should be put before this. Anyways, let's get into the first part of the chapter. Alrighty, contemporary environmentalist profile. All right, so we have a question on the discussion board. How do we picture an environmentalist? To me, not going to try to offend anybody, but when I picture an environmentalist, I picture a long-haired flower, like band around their head, hippie living out of a van in Colorado, who complains about everybody else driving a gasoline vehicle and ruining the environment and all that stuff. But so now from the chapter, I know that environmentalism is information-based perspective work, the need for changing between industrial and the environment goods. So basically, they want to help the environment while they're still helping themselves and other people as well. So I get it. It needs more public support, I will say. I think just the way people go about trying to get that support is more of like, typically when you hear somebody saying, we need to save the environment, it's somebody forcing you, like, you are hurting the environment, you need to quit driving your gasoline vehicle, you need to carpool more, you need to buy an EV. Like, when you go and tell people like me that they need to do something because they have to, or they need to do something because they don't like it, then I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry. I mean, if it honestly will help me, then I will do it. But if you sit there and approach it as like, I'm going to make you do it, then I'm not going to do it. You know, it's kind of like something we did as kids, you know. If we wanted to always do the opposite of what our parents said, we might get slapped in the face for it, but, you know. Second part of the chapter, key issues on a global scale. This one's very broad. There's a lot of key issues on the global scale. International cooperation. I mean, it's kind of hard to put EPA regulations in our country when countries like China or countries in Africa, Russia, all those countries are also not following the same regulations that we are, because, I mean, if we're slowing down our carbon emissions and other countries are stepping them up, how does that help? Alrighty, and then the international jurisdiction of common spaces. So this would be like open ocean zones where people do not own. So like Antarctica, the open ocean, things such as that, DMZs, borders. These areas need to be cleaned up. I know the seas, trash in the sea is a huge issue, and there's companies pouring millions and millions of dollars into cleaning them up. So now we get into climate change, which is what I'm most excited to talk about, because the Earth has been on a slow warming trend for thousands of years since the last ice age. And it's what the Earth does. It warms up and it cools down. And something I found really interesting on the National Geographic website is we went through a small ice age, 16th and 17th century, where we were only 2 or 3 degrees colder on average from today's temp to then. So, as you can see, these changes are so gradual that I think they get blown out of proportion a little bit. So, next, I'm going to get into the air quality standards. So, ambient air quality, the air that's around you right now. Sometimes we have air quality index, or AQI, that you can see on your phones. If you go click on the weather app, it'll tell you what the air quality is going to be like today. Things that affect air quality, I mean, smog, if you're around a big city, affects air quality, fires, stuff like that. You see pretty commonly. Acid rain, if you're around a major city, it particularly occurs in Canada and the Northeast. around, where Toronto, New York, Buffalo, those huge cities up there, Pittsburgh, they experience a lot of acid rain, and it is a huge problem. I mean, it takes the paint off your car, it kills vegetation. It's not good. The indoor air quality. So this is something we deal with a lot in residential construction. You have to make a house breathe, because if you don't let the house breathe, the air inside will become stagnant. Another thing you have to worry about is, like, if you have a basement, you have to worry about radon. You have to worry about radon, carbon monoxide from all of our appliances and gas in here, things like that. And then by building a house that breathes, it'll allow it to filter. And so that's always really good. For tropical forest resource depletion. So we all know, seen it about the Amazon since we were little, reading those little daily readers from National Geographic. They are basically depleting the Amazon of its resources by deforestation, taking the wood and making, obviously, building materials out of it. The importance of the rainforest is basically they provide us with most of the oxygen on Earth. It's a very fragile ecosystem. A lot of species, it plays a huge role in the climate and of the world. I mean, it's around the equator. It affects a lot of things that people don't realize. So the causes and the consequences of deforestation is basically that the soil underneath these rainforests is not very fertile to begin with. So when you take away all those trees, you're leaving behind these open expanses that are just useless, basically. And then also, you're killing trees that are producing oxygen and taking away carbon dioxide. So, and you're destroying ecosystems, environments, and species that rely on those ecosystems. So we're going to see extinct species. We're going to see things that, it's something that humans are really good at. We're good at exterminating things. We're good at pushing too far and then realizing what we've done after the fact. Technology's role in deforestation. I mean, you could do some smart deforestation, I guess. You could go to areas that are there's different stages in forests. There's like one thing that they could do is like remove trees in the final stage of forest circle of life, I guess. We talked about it a lot in Colorado, like an aspen forest is the last stage of a dying forest. Maybe something like that could be utilized there. Number 5 was waste management. And we'll just go ahead and lump waste management and hazardous waste management together. We're trying to get rid of a generation of waste. Things such as batteries, things like that could be around forever. Bottles, cans, all of that takes such a long time to decompose. We need to find better ways to recycle these things. Basically, it talked about treatment, storage, and disposal techniques. Some of those: recycling, burning, just throwing them in a hole and burying them, forgetting about them. But waste cleanup, I mean, I'm kind of talked about a little bit of that earlier. They like to do that in the ocean by taking nets and grabbing all the trash out in the ocean. But honestly, I'm going to cap that off right there as far as like the chapters go. And we're going to talk about global warming a little bit more, because I think that's what affects me more. And maybe like air pollution too, because I had asthma as a kid, so I had to watch that stuff really close. But global warming is nothing more than the government trying to scare us into changing into what they want us to be. They want us to rely more on electricity because it's taxed heavily. There's a lot of subsidies for that. Basically, it's a scare tactic. The Earth is on a warming trend, and yes, we are contributing to that by putting more smog and greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, because it's making the Earth hotter. But it's a cycle the Earth goes in. Millions of years ago, we were way hotter than we are today. They talked about finding tropical trees all the way up in Greenland that are now found around the equator. So we're actually still in what they consider a little ice age. So when I'm wearing a t-shirt and shorts all year round and I can't go outside in the summer because it's too hot, then I won't worry about it. But the thing is we're not going to stop it anyways. I mean, are we going to reverse engineer everything? Are we going to all drive electric vehicles so we have power plants all over the place, wind farms all over the place? So we have to completely rebuild our power grid when our government's spending billions of dollars on wars that don't even matter right now, too. When they could be putting that into our power grid to support what they're wanting us to do. I mean, it's all just such a roundabout thing that, honestly, I'm just tired of trying to have stuff forced down my throat. I'm 21 years old. I can't imagine what 50-year-olds are thinking right now. 60-year-olds, even 40-year-olds, our parents, thinking about this stuff right now. It's ridiculous. But with that, I'm going to close out my Chapter 9 video reflection. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good weekend.